Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Flourish 2019. It's your host, Christina Louise. I'm super excited to dig into our topic today, which is orgasmic freedom with my friend, Nicole Matthew. She is an expert in sex and sexuality and being feminine and like this luscious, divine pleasure. Like, we're going to talk about sex, we're going to talk about orgasms, but probably in a much different way than you've ever heard it talked about before. And so I want you to just open your mind. If you get uncomfortable, like, feel into that, right? Go into the edge with us today and open up to the pleasure, the freedom, and the confidence that is waiting for you on the other side. Nicole, thank you so much for being with us today for Flourish 2019. I'm so excited. You look gorgeous.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
I feel amazing. Thank you. I love how you introduce me, and everything you share just lights me right up. Thanks.
Yes. So we know it's the truth when we feel light up like this.
Yes.
So how did you get into this, like, embodying the feminine and being so comfortable with talking about these, in some cases, taboo for some of us, and some of us have some really icky stuff going on around our anatomy and about sex in general. And so what brought you into this level and this aspect of work?
Yeah, thank you. I love that question. So it's definitely a life process, it's a life journey that took me there. And in a nutshell, there's three major elements and what's the word? Breakthroughs that took me into doing the work that I do. The first one was an awakening when I was 19, that I had a spiritual awakening, and took me into realizing that I had to connect with my body through movement. So it was entering into the spiritual realm, but through connecting and liberating my movement as a dancer. And then the next step was, and so trusting the body, like just going into the body and that flow. And then the next step was the birth of my children. I had two unassisted births with my children, who asked me basically to have birth like that with them. And there's two major lessons in each birth and each pregnancy process, and doing it alone, which was one death, all about death, and the other one was all about sex. So I had an orgasmic birth with both of them. And after experiencing that, like going through a birth experience where I was in absolute trust of my body and spirit, because that was the guidance. It was like, it's my body, it's earth and spirit. That's what I need to trust. This is beyond what any other expert might know. After going through that very like shamanic journey with my partner of like life and death, basically, in the other side, it was like next level sexuality with him as a couple. I was just so much more confident with my body after that. I was like, and it was channeling all this life force of life creation in such a powerful way that now it's like everything was activated. So that was the second stage. And then the third one was my separation, when a few years later, going through the intensities and mother wounds, awakening eventually turned into a separation in my family. And it was experienced as a very, like, an intense trauma for me. And it basically was just like my second death experience. And what happened is that as I surrendered into the pain and accepted the experience and the trauma and the anger and everything to come out, this life force energy of orgasmicness started flowing through my body as a healing energy. It actually was just coming through me stronger than I've ever felt it in my life, to help me heal and release. So I was doing all this deep grieving work and releasing work, and there was an incredible amount of sexual energy assisting, basically. So I did activation of the chakras and things like this to complement, and I realized the power of sexuality at a healing level, at a transformational level, and orgasmicness. Yeah.
There's so many questions that I want to ask you.
I love it.
I want to talk about orgasmic birth. I want to talk about what is sexual energy. I want to talk about surrendering into pain. Yeah. So let's start for a moment with, and I think maybe Well, let's just start with orgasmic birth. What is that?
I love that you asked me about that.
Because you don't often hear the two together, right? You hear pain and torture and ripping and, you know,
Totally.
stress and labor, and it's hard, and I'm never going to have the same vagina again. And it sounds like you and your vagina were having fun
Oh yeah.
during your birthing process twice, not just once. So it wasn't just a fluke. So
No.
tell us about this, and maybe that'll lead into surrendering into pain. I have a
Totally.
sense that maybe it might. Go ahead.
I love that this is so synchronistic, and I love how this works because I did just before coming to this interview, I did a talk exactly about this topic, how to turn pain into pleasure. And this is basically the core of orgasmic birth experience is that it's all about that surrendering. So there's a lot of talk out there right now where people feel like when you're talking about sensual or orgasmic and sexual birth experiences, there's two reactions. One is, what the heck? Like that cannot go together. And it's almost like there's something wrong with this. But if we think about it, how is so simple. How did we create that life that we're birthing?
In pleasure, hopefully.
And pleasure. It was right, like hopefully, but it's sexual. Even if there was no pleasure, there was a sexual encounter. It was sexual energy, right?
Yeah.
So if the environment, we all know it's like, maybe you don't know, but it's easier to get pregnant, conceive alive, which is part of the work that I do. If you're calling in, like if you have an orgasm and you're in conception, that energy actually helps the semen to get to the egg so much stronger and faster and powerful.
Yeah, so let's highlight that for just a second, because I don't think that is common knowledge. I know that. I've heard that recently, but it's only been very recent. So what I'm hearing you say, Nicole, is that when women are having a hard time getting pregnant, oftentimes experts like yourself will say, well, are you getting off? Right? When you're trying to conceive. And a lot of women, their answer is no. I don't get off, or I've never gotten off, or what does that have to do with anything? It's a semen and it's egg, and it should just work, right?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Sometimes I'm like, I assume that there's this common knowledge, but no, yes, there's so many other women that come to me are trying to get pregnant and they can't get pregnant, are doing AVF or, mechanical treatments, or we're doing everything. We're following ovulation and all these processes, right? Of the mind, of counting, of structuring, which is completely the opposite of feminine energy and on the flow that it's required for sexual energy, which when you connect with an orgasm, there's not only like the physical reactions that actually help the semen to get to your egg. There's all of the environment, the hormones, everything inside at a biological level is supporting that process. So there's the biological. And then there's the energetics, which I won't get so much into because it's like there's a whole series on that. But the energy that you're feeding that body to start with is like highly healthy, beneficial, light up energy. So you're like opening up a powerful portal. So it's starting there. Same thing applies to birth, right? Birth, it's experienced so often as a painful experience because I'm sorry, I just hear these noises here. I'm going to cut them off. It's not acknowledged. It's not acknowledged as the same. It needs the same container of sexuality. So it's easier to have an orgasm. It's easier to get off. It's easier to be on the mood. For example, if you feel safe, if the lights are dim, if the environment, like we know what we like for lovemaking, it could be very different for each one of us. But basically, that's the same environment that will allow you to have a more pleasurable birth, a safer birth. Okay, so pleasure actually brings safety into birth, which is something that no one considers, right? And so it's the same energy. It requires the same energy that lovemaking requires for you to have the optimum space to give birth and to have orgasmic birth. And again, as you were asking me, like pain related with all of that, pain is part, and it can be not for everyone, but I experience pain on my birth. But the point is that we have a choice to shift that pain into pleasure. So part of the work that I do is working with how do you shift from an intense experience of pain into an experience of pleasure. And it requires that absolute surrender into the sensation, into the feeling, because the pain that we experience at birth is because the energy that we're experiencing, what our body is going through, it's receiving the universe energy. It is receiving life creation energy. It's so much energy because the whole body that is going to be entering into this new realm, that what we're experiencing, not only the physical sensations, but the energy is, we can't comprehend it. And when we can't understand something, we contract, we reject, we resist it. And that is what creates the experience of pain.
Right.
Right?
Resistance
It's the
to
resistance.
the circumstances of birth that creates this, what some women describe as incomprehensible pain.
Yes. And
what you're saying is that by leaning into it, rather than running away from it,
totally,
that it can turn into pleasure.
Exactly. Yeah. And it absolutely does. It's incredible how there's more and more and more stories now of women talking about this.
Yeah.
And I can tell you with both my birth, like I was in resistance for big parts of it. And then as soon as there's so many things that I teach, things that you can dive into, from movement, breathing, spiritual elements, so many things. But as you go into basically the surrendering, the acceptance, leaning into it, diving into that known, accepting the death, the fear of death that comes, all of these things, all of a sudden you just shifted. That's one of the elements. And the other one is actual sexual connection stimulation, like nipple stimulation, like clitoris stimulation, like making out with your partner, things that not everyone's gonna go there, and you don't have to, but I experienced that on my second birth, and it was a game changer. It was like it was like a passionate love making birth.
That sounds amazing. Yeah. And I'm reminded of a friend of mine who did this herself with her second birth. She said she was underneath a coconut tree and her lover was behind her and she was leaning into him and he was playing with her body and feeding her this nectar and fruit, and the midwife was there, and she's like, it was so easy and I really enjoyed it. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. So and that helps me out a lot too, because personally, I'll just share vulnerably that growing up, watching how people were parenting their kids, that they never had enough time, they never had enough money. My parents, other people's parents were spanking us, punishing us for things we didn't even know we were doing wrong. And I just made a vow at a really early age that I didn't want to be a mom. And then as I moved through life with that belief that I didn't want to be a mom, I started collecting data from the world. Look, there's 1 million children out there. Why should I have another one? Look, it's really painful. My body can't handle that. I was in a car accident. I can't hold up a 10-pound kid in my belly, And so that's interesting that our mind just starts pulling these pieces of data in to support our story, right? Yeah. But through stepping into my desire this year and really looking at these fears, here I come to this conversation with you that I get to share with these thousands of women all over the world. And so we're all up leveling together here as a team by you being willing to honor your body, honor your sexuality, and unapologetically sharing it, even though we probably might get a couple pieces of what the fuck is wrong with you, male?
Oh, yeah.
Right? We're definitely probably
a
couple of people who are offended by what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
We're going to go even deeper today, because I think this is really important, especially as women who are told in our culture that their bodies are wrong and bad and too big or too small, and that, they shouldn't make any noise and orgasm, and it's all about pleasing men. And I'm all about pleasing men. I get off on it, but what's up with the other side? And that's what I want to dive into today, because there's been so many times in my life where I've been feeling really messy. And then I'm like, wait, why don't I just give myself an orgasm? I'll feel much better after that. Why do I even have to think about it? Yeah. And I think a lot of women don't realize that they have this power of alignment and confidence and freedom and hormonally balancing yourself and bringing down your stress levels just right in between their legs. Right now, for free, you could be doing this right now.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's dirty. So you talk more.
Thank you. I love it. 100%. I can tell you, as I was going through the separation, with my partner, with my babies, and I was experiencing, like, we had a very sexual relationship after our birth, especially. So we experience as a couple and as a woman the opposite of most of the storytelling that you hear, and not only in the birth experiences but in after, which is because we birthed it in such way where we were, all the shaming and all the concerns, like, this process was not like butterflies in terms of what we were receiving from the world. It was definitely a shaming. What do you think you're doing? Selfishness, all these things. And that was not even sharing the sexual elements of it, just the fact that I was trusting my body.
Yeah, so you were being shamed because you wanted to have an unassisted birth.
Oh, big time.
You weren't going to the hospital.
Oh.
Adding in sexual pleasure during the process.
Oh yeah, I didn't share that my birth was sexual years later until I did my first summit, and one of my experts was like, yeah, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna tell you, I was totally playing with my clitoris when I was birthing my second baby. It wasn't even a thought. It was just happening. And then after I was like, was I actually doing that? Like, right? So it was so natural. But for years, I felt like I wouldn't even go there, because just the fact that I didn't go to the hospital or I didn't have a midwife was enough scandalous and shaming, right? Like, yeah. So there's so much shame that goes on towards women when we start taking those steps. And I don't share that to scare you. I share that to really empower you with the importance, because when you start taking those leaps of faith with your abilities, with your body, with the power that pleasure brings to us, and the confidence that brings, because, like, I'm gonna tell you, after I birthed my babies that way, I was like, if there was any inhibitions, they were gone, because I was like, I'm a fucking badass. Like, I was like, I can't believe I just did that, like, and we did it together. So it was like, we were so hot after that. And and sex was part of it in the pregnancies. It, like, again, in the birth at a very set up pure level, but and then right after, and the healing of the body as a postpartum woman, as like facilitating breastfeeding and being in a really high vibration was so powerful. My body recovered with the second birth, because it was even more active sexually with my partner, way faster than the first one. Yeah.
Go, keep going. I just don't want to change the subject, but if you were going to say something more on this subject, keep going.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I'm flowing with what's coming up. So,
well, it's just like, this is so, like, I feel liberated, and I feel like my eyes are opened even more now. I really love the point that you made about how the confidence went up because you decided to trust your body. And we're not shaming. We don't want to, like, I just want to say this as a disclaimer to anybody who's watching.
Yes.
We're not shaming you or anybody else. If you have chosen, or you are going to choose to go to a hospital and hire a midwife or whatever, like, it's not about doing it our way. It's about trusting your way. And so I'm really resonating with your way, right? Maybe I won't resonate with everything that you've shared, but, like, this whole, like, where did women, how did the world get populated before there were hospitals? I mean, it's like, well, you have to circumcise and you have to go to the hospital. What is, like, I am sorry, I get a little pissed off, but I hope this is valuable. No, where is the common sense in, I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm going to say it.
No, go for it.
Common sense in laying on your back in stirrups and pushing on a horizontal axis. Like, that is why we tear. That is why it's so painful. Like, if it were me, I'd be on all fours in a bathtub, letting gravity help me out.
Yep.
Right? And then hopefully somebody's rubbing my boobs and my clit so I could, like, enjoy the process. Why is this, like, it's so, I know there's, like, a ton of women right now that just shut the fucking recording off and they're like, F these chicks.
I can't even.
Okay. If you're still with us, hey, congratulations. It's not for everybody. Not everybody's, going to be able to receive this, but for those of you who are like, that kind of makes sense. Hang out a little bit longer. Nicole's got an amazing free gift for you. Okay, so that's my little tangent. But I love, like, I never thought about it like that. Like, trusting yourself, doing what your body's calling you to do. It's not you're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to rub my clit while I give birth today. No, you said it was just natural.
Yeah.
And it's natural. I remember being so young and watching a member of my family who had just given birth to her baby son change his diaper on the couch one day. And it always stuck with me. He just, he's like 5 months old. He was touching his penis.
Yeah.
She smacked his hand and told him, that's dirty, don't do that. And I thought, that boy is going to have a problem with women later on in life. And I knew that intuitively at like 13, 14 years old. I'm like, according to the ideology that I've learned thus far, that made sense. But something in here, like in my heart and in my belly, was like, oh, I would never.
No, I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up. Like, oh, Christina, there's so much to talk about here. But when you said that, my whole body actually had this massive reaction. My stomach contracted. I got goosebumps everywhere. Because this is the other element that I teach. I work a lot with mothers in this area. And the other element is, how do we support or completely, like, we either support sexual empowerment and not, when I say sexual empowerment and liberation, it's not only on sex. It means, again, go back to where I said at the beginning, is the sexual energy or orgasmic energy. You asked me a little bit of that. It's the energy of life creation. That's the energy that creates us into existence.
Right, because a man can't ejaculate unless he's feeling pleasured.
Yes.
Right? So right there, because I feel like there's so many people who could argue that point when it comes to a woman, because I feel like women have been so conditioned to shut down in that pleasure arena, but men, not so much. And so listen, there is no baby unless the man gets off, and the man's not getting off on anything but pleasure, right?
Oh, God.
Right. The process of creation is pleasurable.
Yeah.
You can't get around that. You can't argue that. Like, it's done in my mind.
It's done. And yes, there's so much. When you do that, you're bringing health into the whole process, right? It's healthy, it's strong, it's powerful. This is, again, I use the example that you just used about what you saw your friend do with your kid, in terms of how do we get to be so sexually repressed? Because there's so many women, I haven't had sexual trauma, but we are consciously so concerned right now about abuse, right? Sexual trauma, sexual abuse. And there's a lot of shaming towards the men on this. And I am going to say, I don't know if this is only women or is for both. There's
both. I mean, it's geared towards women, but men, there are men showing up that want to know more.
Awesome. Even if there would just be only women, and it doesn't really matter. The point is that we need to be conscious as women where all of this dysfunction sexually comes. There's so much. This has been like thousands of years of sexual repression. Again, and it happens because there's so much power in sexual empowerment. And when you connect it at a spiritual and at a physical level, it's like you're basically accessing a power beyond comprehension. So there's so much that's been going on for thousands of years of shutting that down, because you can heal your body. There's just so much you could do that we might not have time to get into here right now. But with the men and this smacking of the penis, I've seen that so many times. Oh, that's dirty. Don't touch your penis. My babies were on it right away. And people don't talk about this, but my mom has 5 kids, and she's very sexually liberated, and she tells us the stories of how all of us, and I've seen my niece now, we're consistently rubbing our vagina against something. But that is so shamed and repressed as well. Cut off right away, which is the most natural thing to do, because when you enter this world, those are the parts of the bodies that are the most sensitive, including your mouth. That's why babies put their fingers in their mouth or put things in their mouth all the time. Is a way of exploring this new realm that we're in, this physical realm, to get to know each other. I mean, ourselves first, right? We put fear and shame and like trauma right at the beginning from doing things like that to our children, right?
Yeah.
And so this is where it starts, where the men not only get circumcised and but like get like, you know, this shaming into their penis, and then the energy is there still flowing, so they don't know how to come to women and be honorable because they have an underlying subconscious shame already. They've been hiding it. So this is, it's a huge topic. And it, again, if you've been triggered by this experience, because sometimes you get really triggered by hearing conversations like that, especially if you've had sexual trauma or even physical abuse, or if you've heard how wrong sexuality is. But I'm telling you, the work, it's all about bringing sexuality to the purest form, which has to do with the creation of life.
Mm-hmm.
And like and bringing it like all that all the way to that, hey, look at how kids and how babies explore their body, you know, that's essential when a kid is, but it's pure, right?
Pure.
It's
And
so pure.
I think people are so like, they're like, oh, I don't want to be known as a sexual deviant or a slut, or, you know, I don't want to take advantage of anybody. So by shutting down this part of me, that's going to fix the problem. And I think that's where rape comes from and molestation comes from, and
Yes.
then date rape. And, you know, I think it comes from this repression of what is natural and normal to you. Because I was saying this to I was able to sum it up in one sentence, but I wasn't talking about sex, but it doesn't matter what you're talking about. You are born with certain desires, and sex and pleasure are a part of that. And your purpose is a part of that. And for me, being a mom was just a desire that I was born with. But because of this programming that I received from the world about what it meant to be a mom and what I was going to have to go through with birth, and financially, you know, seeing all these broke people, and, you know, seeing like molestations and rapes and stuff at a very early age, and physical abuse, I was like, forget it. I don't want anything to do with sex. I don't want anything to do with parenting. But then what happened was, and I'm going to share vulnerably again, just for instance, with my desire to be a mom, what did I end up doing? You can't erase your desire for sex or pleasure. You can't. You can ignore it and you can repress it, and then it comes out in dysfunctional ways. So for me, with the whole, I want to be a mom, but I can't be a mom because I got this bullet point list of things, reasons why.
Yeah.
What would end up happening is I would date men who needed mothers.
Yeah.
That's not fun at all.
Not fun at all.
It's like embracing our desires, embracing what feels good and natural to us is actually what will enhance the pure action part of it. Like it'll be like healthier than you trying to repress it. And I feel like that's what you're saying.
Yes.
That we're talking about sex and she's not apologizing about it, but she's talking about it in the purest sense of the word. Whereas if you try to repress it, that's where the dysfunction comes from.
Exactly. So again, when we're centered, and this has to do with the free gift that I have, and one of the topics that I wanted to talk is that connection between spirit and physical, like that animalistic. We're mammals, right? We're one of the animals of this planet, but we're also divine beings. And so when you bring sexuality to it's the bridge between those two worlds, is what brings a soul into the creation of a physical body into a form. And you're at the center of that. That's the pure energy of it. And it's the most powerful energy. And it's that nurturing energy. It's the energy that creates more humans or more dogs or more, you know, like reproduction. It's beautiful. And when a baby comes in, it's carrying that energy, so nurturing, and a mother has that energy out of nourishment. So when we start bringing sexuality to that place, it's like it's literally connected to the mother energy, not only the like mothers that created life, but like the earth. And so when it's in repression, like you're saying, it does come out in incredibly dysfunctioning, and like at this point it's being life-threatening, right? Like it's so intense how damaging this energy is when it's being repressed, because it wants to come out, and it's so strong that will come out either, like if it's completely repressed and you're not having any connection with that, it'll get sick, it'll come out as stress, it'll come out as bitchiness, like fire wants to come out somewhere or the other one, right?
Right.
Or for what you might have witnessed in the world of why we shy away from that, it'll come out on unhealthy obsessions with sex, dating people all the time and being like hungry and having sex addictions and all kinds of external abusive, like rape, a lot of rape in men or sexual abuse because it's disconnected.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the pulse of an unhealthy, repressed sexuality. It's either abuse of it or absolute shutdown, which normally makes your body sick, lifeless,
Right.
like we age. So when you activate this energy, like youth comes right back,
Right, because you're releasing youth hormones.
Oh, yeah.
Them, right? You're like replenishing your cells. You're giving your body a break. You're giving your mind a break. You're letting happy hormones like serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine get into your bloodstream.
Exactly.
It's healthy.
Healthy. Yeah.
It's a healthy choice. And it's so crazy how everything in this world is just backwards and inside out, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's like, yeah, we've definitely been upside down in how we do things because there's so much power even in relationships, like how my mom was just telling me, she's like, my God, there's so many women that used to just punish their men with sex. Like if they weren't being good, they were like, I'm not going to give him sex. I don't know if that's as common these days, but definitely was like a few generations.
I think it's still common.
Still common. Okay. And it's like, no, sisters, do not do that. Like if you're having issues with your man, that's exactly where you want to go into. If you have a relationship, you want to go make love with one another. This is like love making, life making energy. You can heal your relationship.
I want more love for him, so I'm going to withhold love.
Yeah, don't do that.
It sounds like it makes sense, doesn't it? But it's totally not. If you want more love, if you want more respect, if you want more reassurance, if you have to give that.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important for women that we understand. I was watching The Bachelorette. Tell me what you think about this. I was watching The Bachelorette. I love the girl. It's like my guilty pleasure. I like to watch how people relate to one another, whatever. I don't watch commercials. So I can speed through it really quick and get what I'm looking for. But I kept watching her this season, and this is just my opinion. I could be completely wrong, but it's what I perceived was she kept looking to the man to go first, to let her know that she was safe to open up and be vulnerable. I'm like,
no.
Go on the screen and be like, you are the feminine. You are the leader in this relationship. You need to go first. You need to let him know that he's safe, to let his walls down, not the other way around. I feel like this is why so many relationships fail, because it's not working in the proper order. Do you agree?
Totally. Oh, 100%. That's why my relationship fell. I can tell you, like, that's big time. One of them, though, the other one's because I abandoned myself completely and I put everyone as more important than me. That's another big reason. But the other one is, when you're vulnerable, and I'm like, I did not learn this until I was, what the heck is going on? Why did this go so sideways? It's incredible. We women have that ability of vulnerability. That is part of our leadership. That's part of our leadership. So when you feel safe and you create that safety within yourself because you've done the work to go within and know that, I will cry for maybe half a day and I will survive this, as opposed to shutting those emotions and those feelings down. Yeah. And you experience them. You, like exactly what you said, you let them men know that it's safe for them to be vulnerable at a subconscious level. They don't think it rationally. It's just you open up, and then you start pouring that vulnerability out of them. Not only them, but like generally, like out of anyone that witnesses you. You become a source of safe vulnerability, right?
Right.
And I would like to say with that, very important for nurturing empathetic people and women like me, it's very important to have to know boundaries, because what can happen in that is that it's very safe to be vulnerable and to let emotions out, which is what we want to encourage. But if you don't have boundaries, then it could become like you're dumping ground of emotions, of repressed emotions. So when you create that space, but you have your boundaries and you have your self-love and your self-confidence, which that's been the hardest part for me, like that, those boundaries setting, then you're someone that brings this out of people, but you're protecting your own energy. So it creates really powerful transformation. And that's how you're leading at it's a fuel for leadership in relationship, as a mother, as as an entrepreneur, as an artist, whatever it is, you become a magnetic force of safety and inspiration. Because it's like, wow, what's there? This is the energy that it's calling, like that intuitive part of people that is like so shut down and wanting to liberate.
I like what you said. What did you say? Magnetic force of something and safety. What was it?
I don't know. it's like, this is all like challenge. A magnetic force of safety, maybe an inspiration. I don't think I said that, but
inspiration. That's what you said. And
so funny, because it really, everything that's coming out is just like, I'm like, okay, it's a portal. This is like,
yeah. I mean, and that's who we really all are. Like, people look at me and they're like, "You're an intuitive," and I'm like, "So are you."
Yeah.
So are you. If you think you're here by yourself or you created yourself, check again.
Yeah.
And, and so what inspired your birth? What inspired your height, your hair color, your eye color, how you orgasm, what your feet look like? That you didn't decide these things, and they certainly didn't happen randomly, because we would have duplicates, right? Like, if everything was just random, why wouldn't the universe be spitting out the same type of being over and over and over again? I mean, every human being is absolutely unique. There will never, ever, ever be another one. So something is creating and syncing up these different versions of beings that we are. And I believe we're all channels. Like, who's beating your heart right now? Who's giving you breath to breathe? It ain't you, right? So we are these channels. We are these vessels. And I love how you articulated the bridge between the, what did you call it? The wild self. I love that, because people say the animal, and I'm like, I get what you're saying, but that doesn't quite fit.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Or people say like the savage or the inferior, and I'm like, no. But but you said wild and divine, and I'm like, that's it right there. Yeah. I love that. We are so over time, but this is so juicy.
No.
And I know I don't want to stop, and I bet you don't want to stop. You're brave enough to stick with us this far. So we have an amazing gift for you today, a way for you to stay in touch, be in touch with Nicole. Let her continue feeding you this beautiful, beautiful, luscious, juicy fruit that she has to offer the world. Nicole, tell us what people will get when they click the link below this video and enter their name and their email address.
Okay, thank you. You guys, we could keep going forever. So the opportunity is to click that link and go get more of an actual activation of how do you embody this that we're talking about now.
Right.
I want you to experience how to transmute from all of this like mind state that we've been in, because all of this struggle is from like being separate from our body into our mind, which also keeps us away from our spiritual divine self. So you will get the guidance to go into, okay, how do I connect into my wildness? You will learn how to connect to your wildness and to your spiritual. So if you're a very spiritual person and you're very connected with God or the divine and you're doing all that work, this will allow you to go deep into, okay, connecting into the earth, connecting into your passion, connecting into your wildness, just like that primordial parts of your being. And if you're very in that element, you will get the ability to connect your physicality, if you're very connected with your body but you're disconnected from spirit or spirituality, it'll be like that bridge, so that you're like right in the center. And when you do that, you will experience like incredible opening and liberation and confidence, because that's what a human experience is that bridge between the divine and the wild. And so also you'll learn how to go from pain into pleasure. It's which is like, it's such a powerful tool because it applies to physical pain. Like if you're in the birth, we talked a lot about birth today, but it applies to everything. Like if you cut yourself, if you have like a wound, an injury, something that's hurting in your body, you will learn how to shift that experience of pain into pleasure. You will learn how to shift emotional pain and trauma, heartbreak, all these things into more bliss, pleasure. Like there's actually a lot when you experience this, you might be wondering, how the heck can I experience pain and pleasure at the same time? How can I go through embracing what's coming up at an emotional level and therefore experience simultaneously bliss and joy and ecstatic emotions? So much more. Like your confidence is just gonna get boosted up. So it's all gonna be a video series with different exercises, some activation channel meditations that will get you into an energetic level, doing this out of your head into your body and into source.
Oh, I love it. I can't. Yay. I'm so excited. I'm clicking the link. I hope that you are too, taking advantage of the free gift. All you have to do is enter your name and your email address on the box on the page, and Nicole will send that out to you right away. Nicole, thank you so much for being vulnerable, for being strong, for being brave, for being willing to touch your clit. Like, I love you. I think you're freaking awesome. I thought this talk was freaking awesome. And I hope that, you know, it pisses you off. If it pisses you off or triggers you, that you go and like you check it out. And you really go through that series that Nicole, like if you're like a little freaked out and a little uncomfortable, that should be fuel to like, okay, something's up for you right now. Go explore, go experiment. You don't know yet. And that's why you're triggered. So go find out. And if it's all hogwash and we're just disgusting little sluts, then you can just send us an email about it and delete the free gift. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, check it out while you have this opportunity. Check it out, click the link, grab the series, try some of the practices, and then decide for yourself what's true for you and what's not. Yeah. God bless you all. Nicole, thank you again for being here today. Thank you all for being willing and courageous enough to embark on this journey, not only in this talk, but in Flourish 2019. And I'll see you again in your inbox tomorrow morning. Be well. Blessings. And orgasmic blessings.
Woohoo, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.